Episode 238. Today we're going to be talking about Spencer Knight's debut with the Chicago Blackhawks last night against LA. He stopped 41 of 42 shots. He was really excellent in net. And I think for the most part, he was really tracking pucks well. I think when you're talking about Spencer Knight. You're talking about a very reputable goaltender who's won at every single level, who's been able to contribute at every single level, and has made an impact at every single level. Ever since he was drafted out of the U.S. national program, and even when he was playing in prep school before the NTDP, he has always made an impact at every level that he's played at, and even in minor hockey as well. And he's a guy in goal who's very solidified at his position as well. He brings a tremendous amount of calmness. And that's what I noticed with him yesterday when watching the game was how he brought an energy, an aura of calmness and confidence and clarity in the net. And I think that was something that the Blackhawks they don't necessarily have. Like they don't necessarily have this level of goaltending, and they have good goaltending per se. I think on a good team, this tandem that they have, I would say Arvid Soderblom would be a little bit more successful on a better team. Same with Mrazek. And that goes for any goalie, really. It's just the quality of the team. But with Spencer Knight, even in the flurry of shots that he was facing and the amount of volume that he was facing and him playing this game so immediately after being traded, and I just felt like he adapted really well. He played like he was a longtime veteran. He's 23 years old, a former first round pick, I believe 13th overall in 2019. He went on to, from the NTDP, to have a very successful tenure at Boston College, and then a successful tenure in his tandem with the AHL and NHL. Just looks like a goalie that could be a bona fide number one. Just the way his technical ability, how he's added pace to his game over the course of time, and how he's been able to track pucks so much more efficiently, both on his glove side and blocker side, how he's become more efficient in his rebound control, and just being able to make saves from higher quality areas is something that he's going to definitely have to adapt to in his time in Chicago. He had an okay save percentage from high danger areas. And usually when it comes to high danger save percentage for goalies, usually it's lower than five or not 500. Usually it's lower than 900 because stopping shots from that area is one of the hardest things to do as a goalie, whether it be across the Royal Road or just inside the house in general. But with Spencer Knight, he's a goalie that he's going to be facing more of an onslaught of high danger shots and shot volume in general. So it'll be interesting to see how the analytics back up the eye test in that regard. But yesterday he was excellent. I think the data shows it as well. Made a bunch of saves above expected yesterday. He was making a lot of really high quality saves, and I thought his tracking was good. He was locating the puck really well from the point and coming downhill along the flanks. He was setting himself square to shots a lot of the times. And traditionally, as a goalie, he's very good at being able to stay square to shots. I feel like you have to be as a goalie and to have a reputation as a good goaltender, if not an elite goalie in the NHL. You have to be square to the puck. You have to be square to the shooter. You have to be square in terms of your shoulder movements and your positioning, not getting too hunched over, not getting too upright in terms of posture. And with Spencer, he has a good balance where he understands the butterfly, when to drop, when to stand up, when to get back on his feet. I think in terms of his movement, his tracking, I really liked his small area movements and then his push-offs in terms of range, like little 2 feet, 3 feet movements. He was great. And then there were other movements around 5 to 6 feet where he was really sprawling across laterally really nicely, making timely saves. And he's had a reputation of doing that in Florida too, making cross seam saves, making cross ice saves. And I think when it comes to Florida, it's a little bit different in terms of how they're structured. They have a little bit more structure defensively. Chicago is a little bit more of a gong show in that sense. So it'll be interesting to see how Knight adapts his game to that. But I think the other thing that really stood out was how obviously last year he went through the NHL assistance program and then he came out on the better side of it. And he seems to be on the better side of that ever since. So the nice thing is that you're trading for a mentally and physically healthy Knight who could really see the best years of his game come to light in Chicago. And it could take a while for him to really adapt to Chicago's rebuild. And it could be a shorter term rebuild, it could be a longer term rebuild. Nobody really knows the timeline of what could happen in Chicago. But with Knight, again, a 23-year-old goalie, tons of potential. I think this is something that the Blackhawks needed to really check off their in terms of the boxes, because they didn't have that level of goalie, especially at this young of age. He's only 23. It's really amazing just the way he carries himself in net, his presence in net, his calmness in net. He plays like he's 28, 29, or even 30 as a goalie. It's insane. I was remarkably impressed, and I know this is just one game, so it's a very small sample, but just in terms of the potential that he showed against a really good team like LA, really promising to see, and I'm really excited to see what more impact he could bring. Because you look at the Blackhawks pipeline prospects, they have a lot of good D prospects, they have a lot of good forward prospects, but the area that they were lacking the most and that they've lacked the most for quite some time, even though they have Adam Guyon, who's recently drafted and playing at Minnesota Duluth, you have Drew Commesso, who's been playing in Rockford, got a handful of games this year in the NHL, and there could be a few others in that mix, but I think those are the two main guys that you think of. But really getting Spencer Knight is just it's a game changer. It's a whole new level of goalie prospect. And he's not really a goalie prospect anymore. I think what's gonna be interesting with him too is he's never got a full season in the NHL yet. And so I would say down the final stretch of the season, we could really see what he could be as a starter like player in the net and in the crease. I think with Spencer Knight, he has that potential, he has that upside, but it's up to him to really prove it and make sure that he can deliver in the net on a regular basis. I think he showed that in LA yesterday, but it's going to be a matter of consistency. And I think he deserves the number one right now. I think just in terms of the magnitude of the trade, you have to play him as often as you can because trading away Seth Jones is obviously a big piece loss, a big missing player loss. But now with Spencer Knight, I think you have to ride him out as much as you can for the rest of the season because they can get around 15, 20 plus games for him. And that would be really important because he would be up to his career total, or not career total, his season total around 40 at that point. So that'd be almost a full season's worth of games in the NHL. So I think that's important. I think they need to ride him out the rest of the season. Just play him as much as possible, except for back-to-backs, and just really see what he is. Get a really good feel for what he is as a goalie and how his potential can really show. I think the Hawks did a great job in this trade. Like, I was so excited when I first saw the news. I was like, wow, I didn't expect them to get Spencer Knight and a first round pick. It's essentially two first round picks because Spencer Knight was a first round pick. And he's a guy who, in net, like I said, I think there's tremendous potential, tremendous upside. I think he can really blossom in Chicago just in terms of the mindset that he brings to this rebuild, the positive outlook that he brings. I think that's going to be a charismatic energy that the Hawks will need in net too, and something a little bit different, something a little bit opposite of what we saw from Seth Jones, who on his way out was clearly vocal about not wanting to be there, and he's out. So Spencer Knight comes in, basically brings the opposite personality, which is really cool to see. And I think he's going to be a fan favorite down the line too. He's just got the personality, the the bit of the quiet swagger to him. I think it's going to really fit and gel with this younger core that they have going in Chicago and it's really exciting to see. I think he's going to be an awesome player, an awesome goalie to watch in net for many years to come. Again, if he hits his full potential, it's up to him to be able to deliver on a night by night basis and be able to provide that impact. But I think the potential is there, the upside is there, and I'm extremely excited to see what he can be long term in Chicago as well.